That's
You're
weird.
alive.
Here's the intro.
Join us on Geek Blood, the show you can't ignore. Wayne and Kevin diving deep into all things galore. Comic book, movie, sci-fi, and action thrill. Reviewing new TV shows, we keep it real, real. Reminiscing the attitude era, wrestling at its peak. Nostalgia from the 80s and 90s, memories we seek. Pineapples for our rings, a unique touch. Geek culture in our blood, we love it so much. Geek Blood forever, we love it so much. Geek Blood, where we talk about it all, from superheroes to wrestlers. We stand tall, Ray and Kevin, the dynamic duo in sight. Geek Blood, shining bright, shining bright. Did you hear about Pluto? Let's rest up right. Geek Blood, taking you on a nostalgia flight. From movies to TV, we cover it all. Join us and every week we'll have a ball. Shuffle.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Raymond. I've been trying to get us to a cold open for years, and that was our chance right there.
That was our
Blew it.
5-second cold open by mistake. But welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode. Lots to talk about. This could be considered our Halloween spectacular because I've watched a lot of horror movies and TV shows this week I want to talk about. First thing we're going to start off with this week is a Teach Ray Sports segment. This is the theme to Teach Ray Sports. We needed a theme for Teach Ray Sports. I couldn't think of anything that would be original. I stole this instrumental from the Gary Shanley Show. This is the theme to Teach Ray Sports. This is the theme to Teach Ray Sports. First and foremost, I saw this tweet and I wanted to bring it up on the podcast. LeBron James looking for comic book advice. The only reason I'm bringing this up is to get a
Burning
rise
my
out of
collection.
Kevin.
Fuck this guy. Fucking
I think-
go to Twitter to ask where you can buy comic books. Why'd you go to the fucking one of 25 people you have handling your shit to fucking just be
Right.
like, hey, bro, here's $1,000. Go to the comic shop, get me some shit, see what's up. Fucking going on Twitter trying to look like you're one of the people. This
Well,
is like
James
when he
Gunn's
had,
going to hook him up too. So
This is like when he was talking about how he heard somebody talking about him on a podcast, so he asked his guy for the transcript. It's a fucking podcast. Get a timestamp and listen to it, you fuck.
Listen to it.
Sorry, my chili's running hot today.
Well, I know you love LeBron. You have a certain love for him, love-hate relationship.
Yeah, that nepotistic mother.
Before we get into the big thing that we're going to talk about with this segment, I did want to bring up the World Series this year. We're going to talk about the
Yes.
World Series 20
Starts
years
tonight.
ago,
Yes, we are.
but we forgot to mention that
Grimace, down
the
and out.
Grimace was the mascot for the Mets for a couple weeks there.
Couple
What
months.
do you like? What can you tell me about why this happened? I know he was in
Okay.
the stands, and it was kind of like a good luck charm, I guess, for the team.
Yes. So the Mets were supposed to suck this year. I mean, they're
Good
fucking.
luck charm.
They were awful the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They had one of the highest payrolls in baseball. I think it was 2 years ago. Their payroll was like $400 million, and they were like fucking terrible. So they sold everyone off. So coming into this year, like they got new ownership recently, but they're still not expected to do anything. And I think it was like mid-June. I want to say maybe end of June. Grimace threw out the first pitch in a game,
Wow.
and they went on a winning streak and ended up making the playoffs. So yeah, during the course of the year, I believe they painted one of the seats in Shea Stadium purple for the remainder of the season. Grimace ended up being there like the last month of the season.
Wow.
They were wearing like Grimace stuff on their uniforms and whatnot, incorporating it into their everyday games. But yeah, the Mets, it was a hell of a story. Like if you would put $10 on them before the season to win the World Series, I think had they won the World Series, I think you would have got like 400, something like that.
Wow.
That's
pretty
how
good.
far off they were from being contenders before the season. But yeah, it was a great story. I love sports stories. I love baseball in October. There's always a great story, and obviously we're going to get to that in a little bit with the comeback. But yeah, that's as far as I know. That's pretty much what happened with Grimace. He got embraced by the team, and yeah,
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it everywhere. And we haven't mentioned on the podcast. I want to kind of wait until this week anyway, but I thought it was funny. But we are going to talk about something. I don't have the poster for it, but we're just going to talk about it. Came out on Netflix, I believe, yesterday. And it's called.
What day is it? Thursday? Yeah, it came out Wednesday.
Yeah, maybe it was Wednesday. Wednesday. Yeah.
Yep.
It's called The Comeback, 2004 Boston Red Sox. This is on Netflix. Of course, you're from New England. You know this area. You know, Red Sox hadn't won a World Series since 1918.
Yep.
1918.
1918.
And so when this happened, the team was.
Yep.
This whole documentary is talking about the year before in 2003 and how the team restructured. And how Theo Epstein took over as general manager and restructured everything, brought in new players, got rid of old players. They brought Francona in.
As they showed, they wanted Billy Beane after the 2002 season, which you see at the very end of the movie Moneyball.
Moneyball, right.
Yes. And Billy was basically like, Theo's the assistant GM. Why don't you just hire that guy? Like, he'll do fine. And
young guy.
He wanted to work with Theo if he had gone to Boston. Theo, of course, being 28 years old at the time, really didn't know what he was in for, kind of over his head, but also an incredibly smart person.
Yep.
And Billy was like, I would have loved to work with him, basically, but he was like, I couldn't. My daughter's 12. I couldn't move 3 time zones away at the time. So why don't you guys just hire him? And yeah, he brought in guys very similar to like the Moneyball aspect, where he'd pick up a Bill Miller who was a great hitter, but nobody would like think of him because he didn't have a lot of power. So he picked him up, who ended up winning the AL batting title with us in 2003 and 4, I believe. So yeah, he made some great offseason acquisitions. Of course, David Ortiz was literally just hanging out with Pedro, and he was like, I just got released by the Twins, and Pedro was like, let me make a call. Of course, like Theo says, 12 different people say that they were the responsible for signing David Ortiz. It's kind of like the whole wrestling, like I was there when Brett got screwed over type deal everyone always talks about.
Right.
Right. But yeah, that first hour of the documentary was great. You got to see the personalities. And I mean, this team was just full of personalities back in 2003 and 2004.
Millar. I didn't really no idea who this guy was. The star of this documentary.
When they showed him when the whole A-Rod stuff was going down, which I guess we'll get into now, of course, A-Rod highest contract in baseball, but the Rangers sucked, so they wanted to get rid of him. A-Rod wanted to go to the Yankees or the Red Sox. Yankees didn't have an open position. Either did the Red Sox, except Nomar's contract was coming up. And so, of course, the deal was done. Like, they have signed contracts for A-Rod becoming a member of the Red Sox.
I did not know that until the documentary. I did not know that the trade was ready to go.
Oh, yeah, it was on ESPN. They were selling A-Rod Red Sox jerseys before it officially got passed through. So you could have technically bought an A-Rod Red Sox jersey, which honestly wouldn't be worth anything because Red Sox don't have the names in their back of the jerseys. But so it would just be a number 3, so it's not like technically an A-Rod jersey that you could like sell or something like that. But yeah, that whole deal happened. I mean, the Patriots were going to their second World Series and their third World Series in like 3 years, or whatever at the time. And the front page on the sports in the Globe was about the Red Sox possibly acquiring A-Rod. Like, yeah, it was insane. The whole Kurt Schilling thing. Yeah,
we're gonna talk about everything. First thing I want to bring up is Pedro Martinez. He's the fucking man. In this documentary, gave no fucks. And the fights that he would pick on with the Yankees, everybody knows Red Sox Yankees, big rivalry, but Pedro in the documentary admits that he purposely would antagonize the Yankees by throwing pitches at the hitters and hitting them.
Yep.
And Don Zimmer, who I general manager of Yankees, old guy, older guy.
Well, he was a manager. This time he was just like the bench coach. He was basically just there as because dude was like fucking 70 years old. He was the manager of the Dodgers for a long time, I believe, too. But yeah,
comes out to confront Pedro, and Pedro just grabs him and rolls him onto the ground, just rolls him. Incredible. And then he gets in a fight with A-Rod. It's an amazing story. Just the year before they even get to the World Series. And then Kevin Millar gives no fucks, star of this documentary. You talked about the A-Rod trade mishap. But the Red Sox and Yankees, that's what I remember from watching the fights that they would get into. There's so much tension between these two teams. Nothing like it. It was incredible.
Yeah,
and especially during this time when the Yankees were winning every single year and it was always beating the Red Sox to get there, the tension was high, especially at the end of this season. Nomar got publicly hanged by the Red Sox organization with this trade.
Oh yeah,
it leaked out by Millar. I think it wasn't Millar. Who leaked it out?
What happened on ESPN is Millar was asked who would
that's what it was.
You rather have on your team next year, Nomar and Manny or A-Rod? And he seriously thought for the last 20 years that the question was who's going to be throwing you the ball from shortstop. So he answered A-Rod. He didn't actually hear the question correctly. And Nomar called him up on the phone and started yelling at him. And when Millar found out what the actual question was, he was like, "Well, I guess I deserve that." But yeah,
Nomar at that point forward, because he ended up not getting traded with the A-Rod deal falling through.
Right.
Stayed on with the Red Sox to the beginning of the 2003 season or 2004 season, and kind of just blackballed everyone on the team as far as what the documentary said. Like he wasn't talking to people like he regularly was, and
I mean, you can understand
part of the camaraderie.
This guy was the face of the franchise.
He was. I knew Nomar.
In 2001, Derek Jeter, A-Rod, and Nomar. That was your three shortstops. They were all pretty much neck and neck. They were all. I mean, A-Rod was the best, and there was Jeter and Nomar, and both Jeter and A-Rod, because they had gone to the league earlier, were up for contracts. So A-Rod signed this 10-year, $252 million contract. Jeter signed for like 8 years and $200 million. So Nomar was thinking, all right, it's my time to get paid. My contract's up in a year. But at that time, the market had sunk a little bit. And so the Red Sox were only offering him like 4 years and $60 million. And so there was a little bit of tension like 2003. And that's the main reason why Nomar was the one to be included in this trade. But then they always say, well, if we had known that A-Rod would be willing to go to third base, we could have had A-Rod and Nomar as the cornerstone of our infield for the next 10 years. But nobody knew at that time that A-Rod would be willing to move positions. So, yeah.
The other thing I got from this documentary is Theo Epstein has a fantastic eye for not only this team. He said he grew up a few miles away from Fenway Park.
Yep.
But he has just an eye for baseball in general. To build it to a strong team, even with the critics of the newspapers like the Boston Globe down his throat and his neck for every controversial move he would make.
He's from Brookline. His brother was on my brother-in-law's soccer team growing up.
Okay.
Because he was also from Brookline. So yeah, that's right where I went to school. So it was literally like a T-stop away from Fenway.
Yep. And the whole documentary is about reversing the curse of the Bambino. As of course Babe Ruth left in 1919.
Yep, 1919.
And went to the Yankees, who used to be a Red Sox, and ever since then the Red Sox didn't win a World Series, so the curse was there.
The Yankees won them all.
Yankees kept winning over and over and over again.
26 to 0.
Yep. And a lot of them they had to go through the Red Sox to get there. So, so they reversed it. 2004, they were in the ALCS Championship Series, and Game 4, they were down quite a bit. And Game 4, it all changes in the ninth. They're at a 3-0 deficit.
One thing I want to talk about that this documentary that I know of bring up is Tim Wakefield.
Yeah, you said you wanted to mention it. Okay, yeah, they didn't at all. You're right.
Passed away. They do mention towards the end about him dying and like everyone was there, his friend stuff, and he was kind of dedicated to him. But basically what happened is in 2003, the beginning of the documentary shows that Tim Wakefield went out there and he lost the game off the Aaron Boone home run that sent the Yankees to the World Series.
Yep.
He thought it was all his fault. Like he thought he was going to be the new Bill Buckner, basically the scapegoat.
Right. That's what the documentary
ended up being Grady Little for leaving Pedro in for so long. Flash forward to this year. Game 4 he was supposed to start Game 4. And what happened in the blowout is they were losing so much that he went to Terry Francona and he said, listen, we're going to need the bullpen tomorrow. He goes, I can go give you 5 innings. I don't care if I get messed up. So he goes out there and he throws for the last 5 or 6 innings, gets absolutely bombed. They end up losing, was it 19-5, I think was the final?
Yeah,
or 19-8. I think it was 19-8 was the final. He gave up like 6 of those runs or something like that. So he saved the bullpen. Bronson Arroyo, who was in the bullpen, was told he was now going to start game 4. So basically, he gave up his postseason so that they would have a chance with the bullpen the next day, because otherwise there would have been the Yankees would have gone through the entire bullpen, and say he comes out the next day and he only goes 4 innings, there's nobody to fucking bring in after him. So they decided to let Bronson pitch game 4 and bring in Wakefield in game 3, thus saving the bullpen, which saved the bullpen for the entirety of the rest of this postseason.
Okay. Game 6, you already kind of mentioned it. Schilling had an ankle injury that he was working through. And the iconic scene that everybody knows is his ankle was bleeding on the mound as he's pitching. Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling, is there controversy? I know.
Well,
he kind of announced that Wakefield and his cancer. He announced that ahead of time before anybody knew about it. I knew that.
Yeah. He announced it days before he died. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And why is he a piece of shit? Does he say racist things, sexist things? Like, what is it about
He's
him?
He's very
opinionated.
Very opinionated is the way to put it.
Okay.
I don't want to get into politics, but he has said some outlandish things on behalf of Republicans on Twitter.
Gotcha.
Type stuff. That somebody in his position probably shouldn't say, but he's very outspoken. He's always been like that his entire career. He, of course, started that video game company that then went bankrupt and put hundreds of people out of business. So he's just done some shady stuff since leaving baseball, which I don't know if you noticed, but he talks kind of funny now. He got he chewed during playing baseball, and he got cancer in his mouth. So like he can't produce any like saliva in his mouth, which is why he always had the water next to him and kind of talked funny at times because he just always has dry mouth. But no, it's basically just he's said some controversial things. I only call him a piece of shit because of what he said about Wakefield last year is literally breaking the news to the world, and Wakefield was trying to keep it like on the low, and then Wakefield died within like a week. So yeah.
And the other thing I want to talk about is Game 7.
Oh yeah.
Winning after being at a 3-0 deficit, the first team and only team I think still that's ever done that.
Still. Yep.
And they won what 8 games in a row in order to get there. And yeah, it's just an incredible story.
Great documentary.
And I know, great documentary, of course. And if you haven't seen it, swept, and they ended up sweeping the Cardinals in the World Series.
Yep.
So, next we're gonna play a game. This is Variety's new article, "The 100 Greatest Horror Movies of All Time." I got the top 20 here. You're a fan of horror movies. You've seen a lot of these. Some of these are classics. Some of them are modern. Before we get into this list, because you're not going to get all of these. Some of them are foreign. Some of them are classics. You'll get them. But what are your top 3 horror movies that you like? What is your barometer for
Jesus
judging?
Christ. That's my top 3 horror movies of all time?
Yeah. 3 that are a must-watch this time of year, obviously. Something you're definitely going to be...
Scream.
Yep, I could see that.
Saw 1.
Yep, I can see that too.
I can't really pick like a Friday the 13th because
I
like them
that's
all
your
for
big
different reasons. That's a whole
franchise. Friday the 13th is your big.
So I'll just say in general, just a Friday the 13th. Like I like slashers. That's my deal. I don't
like
slashers.
slashers.
Ghost stories. I'm a slasher guy. Yeah.
Yep. I'm the opposite. I like ghost stories.
Yeah.
I figured that out this week. We'll get into that later. I'm not going to do the traditional making you guess, but there is a number one is a movie that you really love. I'm just going to read them down. I'm going to go down the list from top 20 to 1.
Okay.
Number 20 is a modern movie, Jordan Peele's Get Out.
Okay.
For what it is, for what it did, yes, I agree with that. Number
It's a great
19,
movie.
classic Universal movie, The Mummy, 1932. Number 18, The Shining. I just watched it the first time a few years ago. Watched the sequel. We're going to talk about that a little later. A number 17, a movie I've never heard about, Diabolique, 1955. Don't know what that is. Number 16, The First Halloween, 1978. John Carpenter.
Yep.
Right? Number 15, a movie came out in 1973, never heard of, Don't Look Now. Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it. I might have seen it when I was younger.
Number 14, one of the first horror movies ever made, Nosferatu, 1922. Number 13, one of the best thrillers, never mind horror movies, Silence of the Lambs. Movie's fucking classic. Number 12, King Kong. I don't really consider that a horror movie, but I guess you could see that.
Back in the day, it
1933.
was. Yeah, back then it was.
No,
It was a monster movie.
number 11, one of your favorites. We just talked about it recently. 1979's Alien.
There you go.
For what it did for movies in general, that should be on that list.
Yeah.
But top 10, Stephen King movie, number 10. What would you think would be on this list for one of the better Stephen King movies? A movie I've never seen. We've never talked about it on the podcast. And I believe we're going to be talking about... Yep, Carrie, number 10. I think we're going to be talking about the Carrie TV show later. It was in news this week. Number 9, a movie I've never heard of, 1975, 120 Days of Sodom. Don't know what this is. Some foreign movie, I think Italy or something.
Yeah.
Number 8, Universal horror movie, Frankenstein from 1931.
Makes sense.
Another movie I'd never heard of, seemed like it was an Asian cast, feminist revenge movie, 1999, called The Audition. You ever heard of that?
Yes.
Number 7?
Oh, yeah, I've watched that. That movie's fucked.
You have watched that?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 6, Night of the Living Dead. I know that's a classic movie.
Makes
Everybody
sense.
loves
Great
the
movie.
original. Number 5, 1968's Rosemary's Baby. Never saw that
Yep.
either.
Great movie.
One of your favorites, we're getting into the top 4 now. One of your favorites, Jaws. The first Jaws. I mean,
Yep.
for what it is, we talk about it all the time, for what it did for cinema. The tension that shark does in that movie is just incredible. Number 3, for what this movie did, 1960s Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock. Everybody knows that iconic shower scene with Vivian
Oh, yeah.
Leigh. Everybody knows that. And number 2, a movie I've never seen. I have a hard time watching it, but I'm tempted to watch it next year. Because I talked about how I don't like exorcisms. The Exorcist, 1973, The Devil Exorcist. But I've kind of seasoned myself this week by watching The Conjuring and finishing it. But,
Yep.
and number
We'll definitely do that
1,
next year.
number 1 is one of your favorite horror movies. One of your favorite slasher movies. From 1974. Made for a very low budget. We've talked about it on the podcast, I believe. I think we actually may have reviewed
Texas
it last
Chainsaw
year.
Massacre.
The very first Texas Chainsaw
Fucking
Massacre.
love that movie.
You
This
think
is
that
one
list is
movie
pretty?
that-
I want you.
This is one movie that I wish I could just watch in like regular, like non-HD, because it's just so gritty and grimy that it almost plays better as a horror movie without being cleaned up.
Yeah.
Movie's so good though.
Yeah. Overall, what do you think of the list? I mean, that's only the top 20. There are a lot of them
It's a
in
good
there
list.
mixed through that I know you like. I think it's a good, decent list. We always complain about these lists all the time, but yeah, decent list, and yeah, I think it's pretty good.
I am kind of surprised
Um,
Texas Chainsaw is number 1 though. I'm not gonna lie. I thought Exorcist would have been number 1. Because
Yeah, you're
Chainsaw's
right.
Chainsaws doesn't have any mass appeal to it at all. Like it's very low budget. It's very gritty, grimy. Like it's almost like a cult movie, but it's just so good. It should definitely be in top 20. I'm just surprised they have it number 1, which is great.
Yep.
Fucking love that.
Yep. Good job, Variety. You're one of the good ones because most
Yes.
of these lists suck.
Oh my god.
Next,
Yeah.
we're going to get into a retro earworm. We haven't done this in a while, but I wanted to talk about something that I was listening to on a podcast this week. So, welcome back to a retro earworm theater. Retro earworm theater. Now, when we were growing up, we've talked about it recently. We loved Ghostbusters. We loved the movies, and of course, that went into the animated series in the late '80s. We loved it all. We were huge fans of it. However, there was one blemish of Ghostbusters in the '80s that's always in the back of my mind of a show that I used to watch all the time. That was called Ghostbusters. Do you remember this? Filmation's Ghostbusters.
Yes.
The reason why the cartoon that we used to watch and love based off of the Ivan Reitman movie, the Dan Aykroyd movie, was called The Real Ghostbusters because Filmation owned the name Ghostbusters since the 1970s. There was a live-action Ghostbusters TV show starring two members of the TV show F Troop. And it was the weirdest fucking concept. It's two guys riding around in this jalopy-looking vehicle with a monkey. And for some reason, this only lasted for like one season, and it got lost in the annals of time. And then Columbia came around and wanted to make Ghostbusters the movie. Dan Aykroyd wrote the movie, Harold Ramis, and They wanted to make Ghostbusters, but they had to get the rights to the movie. So they got the rights to the name of Ghostbusters. And so it happened, 1984. We all know the history of that. And then when that game became so successful, they decided, well, let's make an animated show. And they're like, well, wait, we only agreed to the movie name. You can't have the name for the animated show. You cannot have Ghostbusters. Because they realized how big Ghostbusters... Because at the time, they were like, oh, what the fuck? It's just a movie. It's not going to become something. Well, flash forward, Ghostbusters becomes gigantic. And they made a huge mistake. I don't think they had a big, huge deal to get money from it. So they were trying to stab them and get some money. And Columbia, or I think it was Columbia, who did Ghostbusters, were like, fuck you. We're not paying you for the name for the animated TV show. We'll just call ourselves The Real Ghostbusters. There's actually a joke in the first episode of The Real Ghostbusters where they talk about we are the real Ghostbusters, not the other one. I can't remember the exact line, but this TV show wasn't popular. The original one, the live action one, was bad. However, to get retaliation for the fact that the Real Ghostbusters was becoming huge, I believe a year after, or maybe it was right around the same time, they debuted another animated version called Filmation's Ghostbusters, animated version of the live-action one that they did in the 70s. And that's what I remember watching. And I have the trailer here. We're gonna watch the intro to the cartoon here.
Let's go, Ghostbusters!
As I'm watching this, it just looks so reminiscent. Like I remember everything about it. Like, I remember that, but I know it wasn't successful. I don't think it lasted more than a season, the animated version too. I don't even, they may have had toys and stuff, I don't remember, but I just remember a lot of those iconic scenes from the show. When I watched this earlier, I was like, holy shit. I remember watching this all the time. Right along the same time as the Real Ghostbusters too, but I wanted to bring that up. And hopefully we won't get flagged because I really wanted to play the commercial, the beginning of the theme song for the show. Let's go Ghostbusters, let's go. What we watched.
Yes.
Are you caught up on Superman and Lois?
I am. We didn't do it last week. We had a lot going on. We had a lot going on this week, so I'll just get to the nitty gritty of it. Everyone knows doing the death of Superman. I told you that he does die at the end of episode 2. I did not know how they were going to bring him back, but they do it in episode 3 in a very emotional episode as well. I won't get into the particulars because I hope you end up watching this show once it's off the air.
I will.
But holy shit, very emotional episode again. They get rid of one of my favorite characters on the show, and it sucks. But his other son also now has powers, which is great because the one that didn't, there's Jonathan Jordan got him in the first season, and that kid's just a fucking wet paper towel. He is goddamn useless. So Jonathan has him now, and so yes, they bring him back. Jonathan has powers. Now he's training both of his sons. But of course, in the classic way he's brought back, he's weakened a bit. And I think this is what's going to lead to the black suit eventually. And how he was brought back. And this show has been hitting all season. This was kind of a come down episode of the first 3 episodes, all being very emotional. This one was more of a happy episode. Get to see Tyler back, who is my favorite Superman and Clark Kent. I fucking think he's amazing in both roles. Yeah, the show's been really good this season so far.
Awesome. Only Murders, or in the penultimate episode. Next week's the finale. We kind of getting a glimpse of who the killer is going to be. We'll talk about that maybe when you watch it. If you do watch it, it's really good. It's on Hulu. Shrinking episode 3. You're not watching it, however, you're going to watch it tonight. Just a continuation. Who they cast Brett Goldstein in this season, you're going to love. And it's going to be a great confrontation when it actually happens. And I don't want to get into the spoiler of who he plays, but it's awesome. Agatha All Along. Penultimate week. However, it is not the last episode. There's 2 episodes next week on the finale week. Patti LuPone, Broadway singer, actor, came on, played a witch in this show. Didn't think anything of it, but she had one of the best performances of an MCU anything ever this week. There was a lot of time fuckery in her storyline happened in this episode. And this episode all had to do with tarot. And you actually, in the end of this episode, you see Aubrey Plaza revealed. We talked about it a few weeks ago. She is playing Death. And this is the MCU, what she looks like as Death. Death is, of course, who Thanos is in love with in the comic books. She is playing the MCU version of that. So yeah, it's a great show. Next week's the finale. I'll talk about those last 2 episodes next week. And another great episode of The Penguin this week. Not as good as the week before, but still very, very good. Episode 5 of The Penguin. The Maroney's family has been taken out by Oz. Sal is in prison and he escapes. Vic gets sent by Oz to his mother to get her out of her apartments because he thinks there's going to be retaliation for all the shit he's done for the Maroneys. And of course, Sophia's pissed off at him too for ratting on her. So Vic goes and picks up his mother, brings her to where he used to live in the slums that were destroyed by the flood of the first movie. And then at the end, towards the end of the episode, Oz meets them up in an apartment that has no power, no electricity. It's all been destroyed, but they're hiding out there because Oz knows he has a target on his back, and anybody who wants to retaliate against him is going to retaliate against his mother and anybody close to him, and so on and so forth. Setting up something that I knew was going to happen in the beginning of the season, that once his mother passes, which is going to happen, he is going to become the Penguin that we know and what we've always known. Julian, played by Theo Rossi, takes a place at Sophia's council close by her side. Used to be a doctor at Arkham State Penitentiary. He got fired, and now he's working for Sophia in her new crime organization.
Have you heard the theory that he's a figment of her imagination?
Interesting. I did not hear that, but that's a good theory.
And whatever's going through her mind at the time. Because a lot of times they show him, and he's just kind of
Not
like
in-
smiling, like it's
no
whatever,
no
conscious
interactions.
of whatever's going through her mind at the time. I saw somebody
that's
float
interesting.
that out there in our group chat, actually, on the Discord. So yeah, that's an interesting theory we'll have to keep an eye on.
I like that theory. We'll keep an eye on that. I like the other theories too, but I like probably that one the best because I don't see his character really developing any further in this season. We only got 2 episodes left. Sophia changes her name to her mother's maiden name instead of Falcone. She denounces the Falcone name completely and her family to Gigante. Sophia Gigante is her name, and that's the Gigante crime family now. And Oz is now versus a new alliance of Sophia and Sal Maroni, who are teaming up to destroy Oz. And Oz, at the end of this episode, finds his underground lair, which the Penguin, he lives in these dank underground layers in the comic books and everything you've ever seen him in, even in the 91, 92 Batman. He does the same thing. So, great episode. And I'm excited. We got like 3 episodes left, 8 episodes. So yeah, we got 3 more of that. Comic book review, second one this month, but I think it's fitting that we do it this week.
Yep.
The Crow, special edition, very quick. I read this last night, picked it up for the first time, and I was done.
Very quick, yeah.
In an hour and 15 minutes, I was done with it. It's because it's mostly pictures, but dialogue was short, and it was good. I've read some comic books that were long and hard to get through. This was easy, but the art was very, very good. And it's all black and white. I don't have any of the art here, but you'll just have to take my word for it. All black and white, very artistic. James O'Barr did a fantastic job telling the story. Of course,
very
different.
Poetic.
Very poetic.
But,
a lot of poems throughout it. Actually, all the poetry.
A couple things I noticed too is, of course, the new one is a reimagining of this story. In the beginning of this book, you see the horse with the barbed wire, which was in the new movie, which I didn't think about when I was watching the new movie. I still think they could have told a much better story. Yep, the car. If they had stuck closer to this book than doing their own story, but that was just one thing I noticed about it that from the new movie took from it.
Yeah, the car thing was a big deal. He was killed in a car instead of their apartment, even though they did have an apartment in the book. They weren't killed there. A lot of the iconic scenes that you remember from the movie were kind of ripped out of this book. I did notice that a lot, the artistic part of it. Like him sitting in front of the window of his apartment. A lot of scenes in the movie were like that too. Overall, great fucking book. And it's a classic. It's a classic comic book, classic movie. Forget the last 4 or 5 movies after it. We'll just talk about from now on, this point forward, how fantastic that first movie is, and how much of a classic it is. And it's definitely one of those movies you probably want to watch every year, this time of year, on Devil's Night for sure. Venom: The Last Dance, canceled. We did not watch it. Reviews are just like we expected, horrible. Official reviews saying that the movie is dumb. Does not give it a lot of reason for us to go out of our way. Right. But a lot of people are saying it could be better than the first one, maybe even the second one. However, just the story that they're trying to tell, I did see a few spoilers because I didn't see it, and I don't really care. I'm not invested in the Sony universe because they've done us wrong. Every movie I've seen from them has been bad. And my feelings on Venom. It's my favorite. We talked about it last week. My favorite character in the Marvel universe. And they have not done it justice. They have, and I talk about it all the time, that there are comic books, histories, 70 years of comic books. The MCU and the DCU seems to get it right, that just adapt the comic book stories. Get down to the general consensus of what these stores.
Yeah, change things for the medium that you're going for, because the comic book is a different medium than the movies. And
but
like they could have done a very
the blueprint's
good Venom
there.
Story. Yeah, the blueprint's there. They could have done a good Venom story. Even if they couldn't use Spider-Man, they could still at least mention him or just do a better overall story. But also at the same time, like at least the Venom movies are the first one anyways. I wasn't a big fan of the second one. At least that was fun, and Tom Hardy was a lot of fun to watch. Because to me, Venom's always been kind of goofy. Like he's a dude that swings around and bites people's heads off. Like you need to find a better balance though between the goofy and the serious, where you can't go all camp and then like it's almost too much that like they could have done a
Yeah.
little bit more serious with them. But I know you like Venom a lot more than me, so
I love the character Venom. I love Tom
Yes.
Hardy as Venom. But
Yes.
everything surrounding those movies is horrible. Like the story, every character besides Tom Hardy is horrible. Even the way I have some problems with the way Tom Hardy depicts the character. He's not the reporter for one. He's more of a blogger in the beginning of the first movie, but we'll get into this when the movie comes out on digital, probably in a couple of weeks, because Joker came out today, or comes out on Tuesday, fully due. So we'll talk about that next week. But now let's get into some great movies. Number 1, The Substance. This just came out.
I'm so glad you watched this. I did not want to.
Well, you told me you watched it.
But we're
I've been
going-
hearing a
Mostly
lot about it
spoiler-free
too.
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot about it too. Stars Demi Moore playing a old Hollywood
She's basically Jane Fonda.
Jane Fonda type character. Starring her, Dennis Quaid, and another girl. Her name's on the poster there. I can't see it from here. Margaret something. I don't know
Yeah.
what else she's been in. She
She's
looks
fantastic.
familiar.
Yep.
Fantastic. I don't want to get into the spoilers, like you said, of anything. Everybody should see this movie. The reason why it caught my radar is because not only is it being said that it's one of the best horror movies ever made, but it's one of the best movies this year. So it caught
yeah.
my radar, caught your radar too. So you watched it, and I watched it, loved it.
Yes.
4.5 out of 5 for me.
Absolutely.
There are some very horror-like elements of this
Yep.
that we need to talk about later on. Maybe
it's a
but-
throwback. It's body horror. So think of like things like The Fly,
Yep.
which I had on my list to watch this year, but then The Substance came out, so I decided to watch this instead. The Fly is a fantastic movie. Cronenberg is fantastic, but it's body horror, which means
Basic
transformation
story.
horror.
Basic story is Hollywood. What's the price of fame and beauty? But at what cost? If you get the fame and the beauty, at what cost does it come? Basic down the level story of what this movie's about.
Yep.
And it's just fantastic. Don't know
And-
anything about the director or story or anything. Just know it was a great
Might
movie.
be Demi Moore's best performance, and
Could
she
be.
got nominated for an Oscar. Did she win for G.I. Jane? I can't remember, but I know she was
I
nominated.
don't remember.
But she is absolutely fantastic in this movie. Dennis Quaid,
Yeah.
also fantastic. The script
Over the top.
will keep you guessing. Oh, very over the top. Script will keep
Yep.
you guessing. It's one of the best written things as I heard before I saw it, and I full-heartedly agree that it's an incredibly well done script. Yeah, go out of your way to see this. It comes out digitally on the 29th, so Tuesday,
Okay.
same day as Joker.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Another movie I've been kind of excited for. However, it did not hit the landing. I know a lot of people loved it, but for me, Woman of the Hour, directed by Hannah Kendrick, it's probably like a 3 out of 5 for me. Not that I'd go out and watch it again, but it just, I already knew the story, and it was dramatized a little bit. And by about the halfway mark, I was getting a little bored with it. But it does show this guy going on a murderous rampage, going on the dating game, and being picked, and the reason why she didn't go out on a date with him is because he was creepy as fuck. I liked that part of the story, but the rest of it was kind of crap. I don't know. To each his own, but 3 out of 5 for me. It's on Netflix if you do want to see it. But yeah, not really for me. So this week, I was getting into kind of a slump. Like, we're at the end of Halloween. What the fuck am I going to watch? I know we've got all these movies and TV shows we've been talking about, and so on and so forth. And a show that came out on Netflix in 2019, never watched. Did you ever watch this show? When it came
A long
out?
time ago. Yeah, when it came out 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
And of course, we're talking about The Haunting of Hill House. This is a show, well, for number one, the first time I ever heard about it, we were in school, we read the book, The Haunting of Hill House, but
And there's
there was
movie
also a
too, right?
movie,
Yeah, the movie's
The Haunting,
Yes.
came out with Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Owen Wilson was in it, and yeah, it came out right when we were in high school, so it was big deal back then. Liam Neeson, right directly off of Star Wars, right after he'd done Qui-Gon, this movie came out, so he's already a big, huge blockbuster star at that point. But this show is based off of that, mostly based off the book, but also retelling the story as well. I fucking loved this show.
Yeah.
4.5 out of 5 if I had to rate it. I never saw it when it came out.
It's Mike Flanagan, right? Who we'll talk
Mike
about.
Flanagan. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, but based off the novel, it came out in 1959, done by Shirley Jackson, which we read in school. I don't know if you read that or not, if you remember reading it, but I do remember reading it. And it had another film adaptation in 1963. Like you mentioned, Mike Flanagan created, wrote it, produced it, was a showrunner. He did other anthology series. The Haunting of Bly Manor came out a couple of years after that. Midnight Mass, The Midnight Club, and the one we talked about during, I believe it was the Emmy season. We were talking, what the fuck is The Fall of the House of Usher?
Yep.
It's another story in his universe. They're not connected.
All he does is make
But
hits.
they're sequels. Yeah.
That's
all he does is write
hits.
fucking... all he does is write hits. And I had no idea who this guy was this week, and I just did a deep dive on him. We're going to get to that in a minute, but...
Yep.
They're all sequels, but they're not connected. They're all new individual stories every season that he comes out with, but he's the writer and producer on all of them. And a lot of the same cast returns for every one of these series, too. One of the leads, the mother in Hill House, is the lead of Fall of Usher, and she was the one that was getting all the Emmy nominations back in the fall, like a couple months ago. Henry Thomas, Elliot from E.T., Carla Gugino, she's the one that's getting all the Emmy nods this year. McKenna Grace, who was in Ghostbusters. Michael Huseman, he's in Rebel Moon, he's in Game of Thrones. He plays the lead in this. 10 episodes, each centered on, the beginning is each centered on one of the family members. They're living in a haunted house that slowly destroys the family from within. I love this. And I'm going to deep dive, I think, in a little bit more into what Mike Flanagan does.
Yep.
Speaking of that, another Mike Flanagan production, but a Stephen King novel that he adapted in 2019, Dr. Sleep. Never saw this, saw The Shining.
The movie was co-written by King's son, wasn't it? Also, it was
Yes.
King and his son wrote it. Okay.
Yes,
I just
the
wanted to
book,
check on
yes.
that. Okay. Yeah, the book.
Yep,
Yeah.
2019, this is a sequel to The Shining. This is Danny grown up, Ewan McGregor playing Danny. And Rebecca Ferguson, who is in, I believe, the Mission Impossible movies with Tom Cruise.
Yep.
Am I correct on that? I think so.
Yeah.
Seen her in a few other things, but this is directed by Mike Flanagan. Expanded the lore of The Shining. Explored the Shine, which was briefly talked about in the first Shining. And the Overlook Hotel plays a big part at the end of the movie. Henry Thomas has a cameo. Spoiler, I needed to show the picture. He plays Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
He plays a Jack Nicholson character. At the end of The Shining, you know Jack Nicholson gets sucked into The Shining, into the hotel as kind of a ghost. And he's the bartender that Jack Nicholson met in the first Shining. He's now the bartender of that bar. And Henry Thomas is playing Jack Torrance, which is awesome. Now watching this, of course, I got into the deep Mike Flanagan. There's some Mike Flanagan news. It has to do with Stephen King, of all things, this week we're going to talk about later. But next year, I kind of mentioned it to you off-pod already. When we do Halloween, I want to do classics, Universal Monsters, whatever, Hitchcock, and Stephen King. And we had already talked about how Stephen King's kind of one of those movies that are kind of like hit and miss. I never saw Carrie, never saw the first Carrie. Pet Sematary.
I've got 4 I've never seen that I'll save for next year.
Okay.
Plus we'll do
Cool.
Carrie. I'm going to include Pet Sematary because I haven't seen that since I was like 6 years old, which is
Salem's
I
Lot.
probably
Never saw that.
Should not have seen that. I've never seen the original Salem's Lot, but I should not have seen a lot of these movies back when I did. It's probably why I'm so fucked up now. But yes, we'll definitely get to some Stephen King. I want to watch Silver Bullet, which is a vampire movie. That might be the one with Christopher Walken. So yeah, there's a few movies from him I haven't seen that I want to see. So I'll put that together for next year.
Awesome. Gonna try to get through this as quick as I can, but that's our talk for that. Final part of the Conjuring watch that I did this week. I watched all 5 of these movies on top of everything else. Annabelle Creation, The Nun, Annabelle Comes Home, The Conjuring 3, and The Nun 2. 50-50 on all of these movies. The worst Conjuring movie, the worst Conjuring movie of the bunch is this one. The ones I watched the week before are the better ones. Annabelle Comes Home, I loved that. The Nun, one of the worst rated movies of the series.
Yep.
Rightfully so. Annabelle Creation, I actually liked it. They told the story of how the doll was made and how
Yes,
the doll became
that was a
possessed
good
in the
one.
beginning.
Yep.
I liked that one. The Nun 2, just watched that last night or the night before. That was okay. So overall, we're about okay on this portion of the watch. Last week's watch was much better. The other puzzle piece, I think we forgot to mention last week, these movies were co-created with James Wan with Peter Safran, who, if you know, we talk about him all the time, running DC Studios with James Gunn.
Most successful horror franchise of all time is the Conjuring universe, with over $2 billion at the box office.
Yep.
And considering the movies are made for
280.
like $50 million each, seemingly, that's insane.
I think it was a $280 million or $250 million combined budget for all of these movies.
Yes.
And making $2 billion for all of that is incredible returns. So, first movie, Annabelle Creation, 2017, directed by David S. Sandberg. He directed Lights Out, another movie I hear is good. Have you ever seen Lights Out? I hear it's good. I don't know anything about it. He also directed the Shazam
he did
movies.
the Shazam movies. I have not seen Lights Out. He's done a few other horror movies, though, I believe, outside of The Conjuring.
Set in 1942, 1955. Strange twist at the end of this movie connecting the crippled girl Janice to the first Annabelle movie, the satanic worshippers that end up killing themselves and going into the Annabelle doll. There's a weird twist with that. Like you mentioned, $15 million budget, $306 million to box office, 70% on Rotten Tomato, right about where I thought it was too. The Nun, 2018. Movie was teased in Annabelle Creation with a photograph that was shown in that movie. I have it right here, but I don't think I put it in the notes today. I didn't. That's okay. There was a picture of a few nuns in the Varric, the nun that was the bad demon nun, was hidden in the background of that photo. But starring Tessia I don't know how to say her name, but Vera, who is the star of The Conjuring, is her little sister who plays the girl that's a nun in this movie. Set in 1952 France. Another twist of this movie is connection to the first Conjuring movie. The guy, Frenchie, is the one that Lorraine ends up doing the exorcism from. The one that the nun demon comes from. It comes from him, and it gets to that. We'll get to that in a minute, maybe. But $22 million budget, $366 million box office, largest box office of the whole series, by the way. Worst movie rated of the series, 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. Annabelle Comes Home. I liked this movie. Gary Doberman, debut as a director, written Annabelle 2 and 3, The Nun, co-writer of It 1 and 2. This came out in 2019. Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson return with McKenna Grace playing the daughter Judy. She was, of course, in Ghostbusters. We talked about her earlier. But story of the Warrens first finding the Annabelle doll and initially locking it away before it escapes to wreak havoc and terrorize their daughter. I thought what they did for their artifact room in this movie was awesome. A lot of the artifacts that we saw in the Conjuring movies came to life in this. I thought it was great. $32 million budget, 231 box office. Another one. This thing came out right before the pandemic, 64% Rotten Tomato. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. This came out during the pandemic. It was one of those day-to-day in the theater release on Max releases. Directed by Michael Chaves. He's directed The Nun 2. He's going to be directing The Last Rites, the last Conjuring movie that comes out next year. This is a 1981 real case in Connecticut where they bring the Warrens in to investigate a murder case. Bring him to court where the defendant proclaims that the devil made him kill his landlord. True story. They actually went in and did this. Tells a story of that in a of course, these all movies are all dramatized for theaters, but tells the story of what happened kind of there. $48 million budget, $206 million box office. Even being on Max is pretty good. Had 55% Rotten Tomatoes. Sounds about right to me. This is at least my least favorite of the Conjuring movies. And The Nun 2. Vera's sister returns, plays the lead. Storm Reed, who's in Euphoria. She was kind of a weird placement in this movie, but she plays the nun. She plays Zendaya's sister in Euphoria. Set in 1956, the nun returns. The nun demon returns, and they have to fight it off in this one. Mid-credits scene, you see Ed Warren receives a call from the church setting up a next final film, The Conjuring: The Last Rites, and that comes out next year. And Maurice, of course, I mentioned in the beginning, is the lead of this, that is the one that's possessed by the demon, that eventually goes into Lorraine, and we know that whole story. $269 million at the box office. This came out last year. Overall,
is that the one that Patrick Wilson directed?
He hasn't directed one yet.
He made his directorial debut
Insidious.
in the Conjuring movie. Oh,
was it the Insidious? Yeah. Those movies I've never seen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but he did that, and I know he's a big part of that too, and that's James Wan as well. So overall,
that's why I get confused.
last week's watch were my favorite movies. Conjuring 1, Conjuring 2. Those were fantastic movies, and great. Movie I'm not so high on. Movie I know you're high on, not me. Jason Lives, okay. Friday the 13th, part 6, right?
Okay, here's the thing about this movie. They were just having so much fun. It's 1986. The sixth installment, obviously, of the Friday the 13th franchise. They were just having so much fun. Yeah,
at this point,
yep.
Yearly. Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. They were coming every Halloween, probably.
Yep. Every year. But this one was it's just so much fun and camp to it that I just have a lot of fun watching it. It's always also was very rarely on TV, so I didn't get to see it during AMC like movie marathons. They play 7 a lot. They play 5, 1, 2, and 3 a lot. 4 and 6 were never really played a lot on TV back in the day. So I saw this one much later than I should have. But like, there's a couple things in this that I put in the notes that I really like. The cold open, a la James Bond, where he walks out and he slashes. It's just it's ripped right out of James Bond.
Yep.
And what I would have done too is this movie was filmed to be shown in black and white because the director is such a huge fan of all the old school horror movies. Is I would have had the entire opening in black and white until the Jason comes across and does the slice, and then you see the blood. I think that would have been a cool choice. Of course, there's tons of references to horror legends. I just put a few in the notes. Station in Carpenter. The surrounding town is Carpenter, named after John Carpenter of Halloween. Karloff's General Store, of course, the old actor that was in all the old movies, Karloff. And Cunningham Road. Cunningham, I'm blanking on his first name, but he was the guy that created the Friday 13th franchise. Okay. So I like the little homages to that. Like you said, the opening, you put in the notes here, that is Rorschach from Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yes.
Fucking hilarious. Because who else is in Welcome Back, Kotter? John Travolta, correct?
Yeah.
Whose nephew is in Friday the 13th, Part 6? John Travolta's nephew is the one having sex in the RV.
Wow.
So that was a tie-in. I thought you would find that kind of funny. And of course, the line of the movie. Well, there's a ton of lines in this movie because they're all fucking great.
The one I picked up on.
The one you picked up on was, "Hold on, it's going to be a hairy road," when his face is in that chick's lap when they're driving. Another one of my favorites is, "Do you have the license plate?" And he goes, "I got the whole enchilada."
Yep, I remember that one too.
Lines like that, and there's another one by his deputy. What's he say when he has this little laser pointer on his gun, and he's like, "When the red dot hits you, kaplow," or something like that. This movie just can't be fun. They weren't taking it too seriously. It got pretty good reviews when it was released. The issue with the box office was it was released the same weekend as Aliens.
Okay.
So it got absolutely fucking murdered at the box office by the sequel Alien.
That'll do it.
Yeah, overall, this is one of my favorite ones because it doesn't take itself seriously. They bring back Tommy, completely different actor, of course. Started off with Tommy Jarvis in 4, played by Corey Feldman. Then the guy in the Nut House in 5, and then I guess in this one he's just completely not insane anymore. But yeah, I mean, it's good fun. They kind of take the whole thing full circle because they were, of course, every time one of these released, whoever was writing it this time, it was the director, was basically told kill him off, but don't kill him off. So of course he kind of made it full circle, and it ends with Jason being back at the bottom of the lake. which they filmed in post production in the director's father's pool at the time. So yeah, I mean, just overall, I know it's full of a ton of tropes. It's very fucking stupid. It's also the only Friday the 13th to actually feature fucking kids at the camp. So this is all going on while camp activities are happening.
I was thinking that too.
Every other one is days before the kids show up, and the characters are just getting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, overall, I find this incredibly fun. One of my favorite ones from when I was a child, definitely. But yeah, I mean, it's fucking stupid at this point. It's Friday the 13th, like, and the next one is basically Jason versus fucking Darth Vader because she goes up against he fights a girl that has fucking TK. So
okay. A movie you recommended late in the podcast last week that we watched this week.
Yes,
we talked about Sebastian Stan. A movie called Fresh on Hulu.
Yep.
This movie was rom-com. In about the 33-minute mark, all of a sudden everything changes and the credits roll. I don't want to get into the spoilers of it, but I really do want to get into it. The movie's been out for 2 years. We're going to hold off on it. Anybody who has not seen it, it's on Hulu, starring Sebastian Stan and Daisy Edgar Jones, who was in Twisters. Yep. We just talked about her this past summer.
When I saw that, I was like, what was she in? And you were like, I don't know. And I'm like, it's got to be something. Then I looked up her IMDb. Like, I named a few movies, and you were like, no, that's someone else. That's someone else. And then I was like, Fresh. That's what she was in.
Yep. This movie is fucked up.
Yep.
In a great way, and Sebastian Stan just can act his fucking ass off. That's all I'm going to say about it.
He's so good.
The love story in the beginning is great. I was in love with the movie, and then it just takes a turn 30 minutes in. And I was also rooting for the love story throughout the whole fucking movie. That's what tells you how great this love story was.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll turn. Maybe it'll turn.
It's great.
It did not turn. I don't want to get into the spoiler. Anybody who's not seen this movie fresh.
You want to talk about it a little bit? Maybe 5 minutes after we do news, we can just end the pod on talking about it.
Sure, we'll do a spoiler review of that. But yeah, it's great. You want to talk about a movie? I saw you posted on Twitter about this. I'm going to ask you about it. The Collector. You did a watch yesterday. Watching it.
Yes, I did. This is a movie that came out in 2009. I hadn't seen it in probably about 10 years. Last time I saw it was when I lived with Vic over on the mountain. And he was going to bed early. I think he might have been sick or something. And me and his girlfriend were like, all right, let's stay up and watch some horror movies. So we went to Ruby's. We got some pizza. We got some Irish nachos. I love Irish nachos. You just replace the tortilla chips with potato skins. Fantastic.
They're amazing.
So we got a bunch of food. We did some stuff that made us really hungry. Had the munchies. And we sat down and we watched this back to back with The Human Centipede.
Oh,
and
boy.
Me and her talk about this night often because she hates me for that night. But we also had a lot of fun watching it. But basically, this movie it's like Don't Breathe mixed with Saw. So it's basically, I'm not going to give any spoilers. It's basically this guy's a career criminal. He's out of jail. He's fixing up this house. I believe he's a locksmith. These people are having their house renovated. They're fucking millionaires. And he knows for a fact they have this like jewel in their house or whatever, right? So he's got like an 8-year-old daughter who he barely sees. His ex-wife is in for a lot of money, and he has basically till midnight to get this money. So he knows these people are going on vacation that day. So he basically breaks into their house. He's going to get a quick 5-minute job. He knows right where the safe is. He knows how to break into safes. As he's breaking into the first safe, he hears some noises in the house. Well, the people never made it on their vacation. And they're basically in the house being tortured by this dude with this, like, it's almost like this really thick mask and it has like blue eyes. Very creepy. You find out later in the movie who the dude is in relation to these people. You see him earlier in the movie. You just don't realize it yet. But yeah, overall, a very just intense film. It's a very cat and mouse type movie. The main dude that's in it plays like a henchman in The Dark Knight Rises. I can't think of his name, but he's one of those guys that if you saw him, you'd be like, oh, I've seen him and stuff.
Okay.
But overall, very good. There's a couple things to break it up, like the parents are in the house and like their teenage daughter, like who gets into an argument with them like earlier in the movie, like leaves. She's like, fuck you guys. And she knows they're gone. So she comes with her boyfriend back to the house. And so this guy that's breaking in as a jewel thief ends up trying to to help these people, and it doesn't go very well for anyone involved. But I really, really enjoyed this movie, and I just was on my computer organizing things, and I came across it, and I was like, I have not watched this movie forever. I'm just going to randomly just watch it, and I love it just as much as I did back when I saw it in 2012. It's very good.
Awesome.
A lot of cheese. Apparently, there's 3 of them. I've only seen the first 2, so I may have to look into the third one.
Okay, cool. Last week we left off, before we get into news, we're going to do a recap of New York Comic Con. Tom Hardy was on stage talking about Venom: The Last Dance. Talked about and was asked what would make him return to the franchise as Venom. He says he's always been saying this is his last time as a character in Eddie Brock. But what's going to take for you to return? And he says, well, facing off against Spider-Man would be the one reason I would return. That would be it. And I believe if that happened, spoiler for the movie, I know we haven't seen it, but I did see this. At the end of the movie, he does return to New York City and becomes a reporter for the Daily Bugle. I don't know if they're trying to set up anything MCU related or what with that, or just to make the fans happy. I don't know, but I did see that today, even though we haven't seen the movie. But he did say I would like to fight Spider-Man and would like to do it now. Never say never. So, they did Aaron Taylor Johnson came out, showed some footage of some bloody footage from Kraven the Hunter. Yep. Some new stills came out for that. Looks great. But again, it's Sony. DC released a whole bunch of comic book stuff. They announced well, we already knew about Superman. That comes out next month. Same with Absolute Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman came out
and Flash. It did, and Flash comes out in March. We talked about Absolute Superman last week. Not Superman, Batman. And this is that universe with these characters for the Justice League. Also, they talked about Absolute Manhunter, Martian Manhunter, which looks so wacky. The art looks crazy, Ditko crazy. I actually liked it.
Me too.
And Green Lantern was there. And the other thing they talked about, not DC related, but Marvel related, they're doing another, like Logan, like the old man Logan, they're doing a Daredevil version of that. And that's the bottom right there, where Daredevil's kind of in an apocalyptic, after apocalyptic type era, where he's living in Hell's Kitchen. He's still Daredevil, but he's older now and more grizzled, just like old man Logan. I thought that was pretty cool. Spider-Man 2 is releasing on PC, officially announced for January 30th. They did announce that. Let me remove this for a minute.
People are going to mod that game like crazy. The mod should be fucking really cool.
Yeah, it will be. The DLC for Spider-Man 2, there was supposed to be DLC. Not only was it rumored, I believe it was announced at one time, but the Sony people that did the game for PS3 PS5 decided to get rid of it all completely. There's no DLC anymore. No plans for releasing it, which makes me think they're going to be releasing a third game sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But, official synopsis of Daredevil Born Again was released. Matt Murdock, a blind lawyer with highlighted abilities, is fighting for justice through his bustling law firm, while former mob boss Wilson Fisk pursues his own political endeavors in New York City. When their past identities begin to emerge, both men find themselves on an inevitable collision course. It will release on March 4th in 2025. It was officially announced the date. Very excited for that. And the big thing of New York Comic Con was the trailer for Creature Commandos, which I fucking loved. Yep. And in the trailer, we see Clayface. So they're bringing in Batman villains.
So the thing is, this show is like, it's kind of like a tease of what's going to happen in the DCU. So I can see it basically being filled with Easter eggs of what we're going to potentially see in the DCU. And how dope would it be if he's already cast his Batman and we get a voice performance at some point?
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
That would be very interesting. Yeah.
The first person, James Gunn was on hand. He said the first person that he cast in the DCU was Maria Bakalova, who was in Borat. She's been in a few things since then, but her big breakout role was the daughter of Borat in Borat 2. But she was the first person she cast for, I believe, Creature Commandos. Don't know her role in that. But
she was
Viola
also, wasn't she the dog in Guardians?
Yes,
She's
Guardians,
the voice of the dog,
right.
yeah.
Viola Davis and Amanda Waller. She was the last major Creature Commandos character that they recorded. She brought everything together for the show. It has references, Creature Commandos has references to the Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad movies that he did. But you don't need to have to watch those beforehand. So we're still trying to figure out where those are connected to this universe. We know that they're going to be coming out soon. Peacemaker's currently filming as we speak. So, James Gunn said there's going to be an R-rated sex scene between Rick Flag and Maria Bakalova's character in Creature Commandos. Teases that a video of Frank Grillo and Maria Bakalova attempting to voice the sex scene will be released when that episode releases, episode 2. He's going to release that video of them talking, doing voices. I can't wait for that.
There's a segment of fans that are not going to be happy about this for some reason.
Episode 4 is the saddest thing he's ever written, and he wrote Guardians 3. And it's the one I wanted to get right, he says. And they also cast Michael Rooker, Linda Cardellini, and Peter Serafinowicz. And Ben Davis, so I don't know who that is, but the other 3 I do. We're all being cast in the Creature Commandos, and they will appear in that. Very exciting. He also released pictures of official Funko Pops that are coming out for the Creature Commandos. He says he's going to get every single one of them. And John Cena is doing a great job with Peacemaker 2. Also announced that Aaron Pierre almost played Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Internet went crazy for that too. Of course, he's been cast for the Lantern Show, which I'm excited for. They released today a video of him working out for that. Looked awesome. Talks about Supergirl movie. It's going to be it's going tremendously well. It's a connected universe, but we're not imposing an overall aesthetic. In other words, you don't have to watch one thing to get to know the next thing. It's connected, but it's not. They're going to start shooting that in England in January. And he just saw the screen test with Millie Alcock, and he did officially announce it's based off of Tom King's Woman of Tomorrow, which we just read recently. And he also said, talking about the Superman trailer, it won't be too long before we see a trailer, but it also won't be too soon. I'm guessing next month. We've already talked about December. Seems to be the date. Yep. Maybe Super Bowl 2. And he says that Damon Cornsweet will blow people the fuck away as Superman. I don't think anyone really understands the depth of this guy's talent dramatically, comedically, and physically. All character attributes I want to see in Superman, so I'm excited for that. Yeah, I'm pumped up. And if you say what you say about Creature Commandos, it's going to be like a trailer for the DCU. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And I hope we do see those Easter eggs throughout. That'd be awesome. With that being said, we are over an hour, but I don't have anywhere to go anymore, so we can go as long as we need to.
Okay.
Let's get into news. And it's not a news segment with a trailer roundup. Just one trailer, but I wanted to bring it up because it did look pretty fucking cool. Ke Quan comes in a movie called Love Hurts, comes out on February 7th of next year, where he's pulling a Jackie Chan, and he's doing an action romantic movie with him and Ariana DeBois from Hamilton and West Side Story, the Steven Spielberg remake. It just looks great. He does a great job with the action. He used to be a stuntman before he came back and won his Oscar last year. He was a stuntman for like the last 25 years, 30 years. So he's taking all of that talent and becoming the lead star in this movie, this action movie. It looked great. Yeah, I'm excited to see what else he can do. So excited for that. Weekend box office last week: Smile 2, 23 million. The Wild Robot, 10 million. Terrifier 3, 9.3 million. A lot of people are saying Smile 2 is good. I do want to see it because I want to see what Jack Nicholson's son does in that. How he does a character.
First one's good too.
I never saw it. I do want to see it though.
Or you did it last year. It's good.
Terrifier 3 box office, this was a couple days ago, earned over 14 times its budget in just 1 week. Crossed the $25 million box office earlier this week, but yeah, movie's doing gangbusters considering what it was made for. Deadpool and Wolverine had passed Barbie, becoming the 12th highest grossing movie of all time domestically, now on digital if you want to see it. The 5th episode of The Penguin achieved the series' highest viewership to date this past Sunday with 1.8 million viewers on HBO and Max across both platforms. Very exciting for that show. Keeps growing every week. And John Turturro says he declined to return as Carmine Falcone in The Penguin because he thought there was a lot of violence towards women in the show, and he says that's not my thing.
Make any sense? He literally chokes a woman in the Batman.
Yes, I was going to get into that.
And in the show,
with a pool cue.
Of that. Yeah, in the show, his character doesn't do any of that. His character's just in the show. So,
yeah, whatever. I just don't think he wanted to do it. That was his excuse. That's basically what I think it was. But, talked about it last week. In a new movie about Sammy Davis Jr. and Kim Novak, it's a drama directed by Coleman Domingo. We talked about him on Euphoria when we talked about him, but it's called Scandalous. It's about the 1950s romance between the two of them, and it was interracial romance and what that did to both of them, her career mostly at the time in the 1950s. But I always say, like, I love biopics. I love shit like that. Sammy Davis, he is a great actor, and I mentioned it last week when we saw Alien Romulus. He is going to be one of the next rising stars of Hollywood, and this is just the first plant in that. Speaking of him, also announced this week, a sequel to Alien Romulus is in the works. Director Fede Alvarez planning on maybe returning, but Cailee Spinney and David Johnson are set to return, and not sure when it's going to be coming out, but the sequel has been greenlit. Very excited for that because the way that movie left off, I wanted to see more what was going to happen to those two characters. So that's exciting news. Speaking of Alien Romulus, they're coming out with a limited edition VHS, actual working VHS of Alien Romulus.
Yep, that's awesome.
Very, very limited edition. Looks awesome, but it's going to be the full 4:3 aspect ratio too. So that's great. Also announced officially this week in 2027 a sequel to Planet of the Apes is coming out. The sequel to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes came out this year, so that was announced this week. Chris Hemsworth, we talked about last week, they're going to be doing a Disney Prince Charming movie, and Chris Hemsworth is in talks to play the main character Prince Charming in that movie. It's either him or Chris Evans, or one of the Chris's is going to be in that, because they're all the ones they pick for these type of movies. But announced today or yesterday, 4K Blu-rays of all of these shows: Loki season 2, Hawkeye, Mandalorian season 3, and Ahsoka season 1, all coming out with all the special features in 4K, coming out on December 3rd. Pre-orders at the end of the month on Halloween Day if you're still into the digital physical media. Speaking of Star Wars, some official art from The Acolyte came out. Now that show's been canceled. However, the big thing of that was Darth Plagueis, and this is what the character was going to look like with the lightsaber and all. Eventually, if it had actually shown and come to pass, but did not, it's not going to be continuing either. But every art that we've ever seen of Darth Plagueis is right down to what this character looked like in the show. So it's too bad. I don't know if it'll continue ever in a comic book, cartoon, or whatever. But I do want to see that story play out. But I don't know if we will or not. That's later on. Don't look at that yet. Stephen Knight was going to be the screenwriter of the Star Wars movie starring Daisy Ridley, the follow-up to Rise of Skywalker. He has left that project. That was announced today for Variety. Don't know much about what's going on behind the scenes. Star Wars is kind of on the back burner right now, except for the live-action TV shows, The Mandalorian.
Anything right. Disney can't do anything right with this franchise when it comes to the big screen.
No.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because these should be seen on the big screen.
Speaking of unfortunate, mixed reviews I've heard, but Back to the Future, the musical, is going to be leaving Broadway, doing their final performance on January 5th of next year, just a couple months away. it's more like a jukebox musical from what I hear. A lot of Huey Lewis music is played throughout it, but retelling the first movie of Back to the Future. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever want to go see something like that or not, but yeah. Coming out on Netflix, this one I'm kind of excited for, January 7th, 2-part documentary about Jerry Springer called Jerry Springer Fights Camera Action, exploring everything about him, his talk show, how it became a hit in the 90s, everything about that, and all the jaw-dropping revelations that are going to be happening in that. Kind of be cool. Hans Zimmer, the Dune 2 score, has been ruled ineligible for an Oscars because he used a lot of the music from the first one. And you have to use more than, you can't use more than 20% of pre-existing themes, and I guess he used quite a bit from the first movie for the second movie's soundtrack, so he will not be eligible for the Oscars, Hans Zimmer. I'll put this back up there. Dune 2 released a popcorn bucket called the AR Arena Popcorn Bucket. Set up like Gladiator 2, sorry. Set up like a Coliseum. And you can use AR to see an actual fight in the middle of your popcorn bucket.
That's kind
if
of
you
dope.
get the little AR, you get a little QR code on there that you can scan and see a fight happening. They showed a video of it online. Yeah, it looked decent, looked cool. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a documentary on Netflix, but Lyle and Eric Menendez they went to prison for murdering their parents. The documentary is on Netflix right now, talking about how they went to prison, how they were abused by their parents, and why they took the revenge out on their parents. But they are going to be resentenced. They may be out of prison because the documentary has brought a lot of light to the case. I don't know if you've watched it or not, heard anything about this story. I know a lot of people are talking about it.
5 or 6 episodes in. Every week I just get a reminder to keep watching, so I watch one episode a week. It's very good.
Yep.
They do take liberties with the story, but it's very good.
Yep. But yeah, they're going to be trying that case. So, Chick-fil-A, we talked about it a while ago. They're going to be coming out with their new streaming service called Chick-fil-A Play. Well, that's what it is, and they're going to be doing their own content. They're a religious company. They're closed on Sundays. That's notorious for them. But they're going to be doing their own movies, own television, own content that they're going to be creating. They're all going to own it. I don't know if it's free. I don't know much about it. I don't even think I wrote it down or anything. It's free service. That's what I did write it down. Own animated shows, scripted podcasts, cooking shows. So, yeah, if you want a free Chick-fil-A streaming service, there you go. Elon Musk. Oh, Elon Musk. He, last week or the week before, he debuted a whole bunch of new Tesla vehicles. And one of the vehicles, when I was watching the video a couple weeks ago, I was like, God, that looks a lot like Blade Runner. And well, I guess the producers thought the same thing because they ended up suing Elon Musk this week for ripping off their concept on their movie Blade Runner 2049. And the video that he played and the vehicles and everything, but the video mainly, I have a picture here of what the lawsuit is saying. The producers of the movie are saying Elon Musk stole. The top one is from Blade Runner, and the bottom one is from the trailer that he played for Tesla during his presentation a couple weeks ago. Looks almost identical to what they did, but they are suing him, trying to get money for copyright infringement, suing Tesla, Warner Brothers Discovery as well. So yeah, we'll see about that. We mentioned it earlier, but Mike Flanagan is in talks to direct Carrie, a TV series in the works. Don't know where it's coming from, but yeah, excited for that because didn't know anything.
The only reason
about him.
I'm excited about this series is because his name is attached. If it was anyone else, I would not be excited about this because we don't need it. But they could do justice for the first time. Of course, Sissy Spacek was great in the original movie, but Carrie is supposed to be this overweight girl, and they haven't done that. I mean, they cast fucking Chloe Grace Moretz in the remake. I mean, there's no way in any high school on the planet she would be bullied. Chloe Grace is beautiful. So, if they stick closer to the source material, this could be really good, and I have a lot of faith in Mike Flanagan involved.
Yeah, and I had no idea who this guy was this week, but I'm in love with this guy. I think he's a great creator.
Oh, he's great.
No idea who this guy was, and he's great. Yep. And what he did with that Netflix show was amazing. Yep. Even Dr. Sleep. Announced today, something I did not expect happening. I'm awake. Alarm. Blue Streak, a
Yes.
sequel in the works. Martin Lawrence will produce the film. I love this movie. I know you do
I was gonna
too.
say, this is in my top 50 movies of all time. It's one I can go back to at any time. If I'm having a bad day, I can put it on and I feel fucking
Yep.
great. Like, I fucking love this movie. It's one of my
It's
favorite
great.
movies of all time. And I can't believe we're getting a sequel fucking 20 years later.
Well, no, it's just the way nostalgia is right now. That's what we're
25 years
getting
later,
right now.
whatever it is.
Yeah, 25 years later.
But like, this isn't like a
Um,
nostalgia. Like, the movie wasn't like, it's not like it did great back in the day. It
No.
was just a fun buddy cop
Yeah.
movie with one being a criminal. It was.
It did a lot.
great.
It did a lot for Jay-Z and Ja Rule's career, though. That
Oh my
fucking
God,
video,
yeah. Huge. Yep.
huge. Matt Reeves and WB are having discussions with Victoria Pedretti. I saw this on Twitter. I'm not sure if this is true or not. I just wanted to bring it up on the podcast because I don't see Matt Reeves doing Harley Quinn, but that's a rumor of her being
I could-
cast in this.
See him doing her before she becomes insane, like having her work at Arkham Asylum.
Maybe.
For part
know what
two,
I'm thinking.
anyways. Real quick for
You know
part two,
she-
maybe, and then eventually doing that arc, maybe in part 3 with the Joker. But I don't know. Go on.
She would be great as Victor Freeze's wife. She
Yes.
is a very ghostly because she's in House, the Haunting of Hill House.
Yep.
That's the only thing I've ever seen her in, and she is fantastic in that. She plays kind of a ghostly character in that, and yeah, I think she would do a great job of that, doing with flashbacks and stuff. And if they do an adaptation ever of that, that'd be great. We've talked about it before. We spoke about Agatha all along earlier. They're going to be releasing an official tarot deck on Amazon. The episode last night all had to do with tarot, and Marvel's going to be releasing an Agatha all along tarot deck coming out on July 8th of next year. Marvel had a big, huge shakeup this week. They added new films to the 2028 release calendar for February, May, and November, but they also removed for next year's calendar, Blade was removed from the calendar completely. Not sure what's happening with Blade. The rumors today were that Mahershala has met up with Marvel's as recent as last week. He's still positive for the movie. He's okay with all the delays that are happening. He's okay. He's saying, yeah, fuck it. Let's expand it. Let's get the story right. Let's get the producer directors right. Let's get everything right. Is what the rumors are. But as of now, not on the calendar. Right. We'll see. We're not sure.
I have a feeling that like he kind of feels like he should have more creative involvement, and they saw the reception that Wesley Snipes got. Maybe they're thinking we can do it as we want, and maybe because Secret Wars is supposed to soft reboot the universe, or that's like the rumor. So maybe have Wesley Snipes in there for that, and then do this Blade afterwards, whether Mahershala is involved or not, or he could become Martian Manhunter for all we know.
Right. Who knows? I did see that too. But when they removed Blade, they added a movie in its place. November 7th of 2025, Predator Badlands, sequel to Prey, coming out. That's going to be
Nice.
released in theaters this time too. So they took the spot for the Marvel movie. Yeah, excited for that. A figure that got me so pumped up this week, so awesome. Mondo coming out with a Venom animated from the animated series in the 90s. A whole bunch of articulation, a whole bunch of different hands, figures, faces, heads.
This is right up your alley.
This
is
is
made for
awesome.
you.
13 inches of Venom. Guess what? It's sold out, and I'm pissed about it. But this comes out. I believe, in December. But it just looks fucking awesome. And this is definitely one of those things that are shelf worthy. $250, I believe. But it does look awesome. Rumors after everything happened with Venom, and now that there's rumors of different projects being back on the table now, Sinister Six movie for Sony. Now there's a rumor that the Silver Sable project is back on as well as Sony. I believe at this point they're just grasping for straws to see what can stick. And everything that they've come out with has not stuck. I don't have a lot of faith for Kraven the Hunter. Didn't have a lot of faith for Venom either.
I only have faith for Kraven because the writer is the same guy that did the Equalizer movies. So I know it's at least going to be full of action, and it's R-rated, so there could be a lot of violence. I think it'll be entertaining. I don't think it's going to be very comic accurate, which is going to probably piss you off, but I could give a fuck about Kraven, so.
Right. And I care about the comic accuracy more than anything, especially for these characters. So I grew up and loved. So, finally in news, Tom Holland. He was on Jimmy Fallon, but first he was talking about in an article for I don't know where he was at, but he was talking about bringing in Miles Morales into the Spider-Man movies, kind of like Robert Downey Jr. ushered him into the MCU as Spider-Man. He wants to do the same for whoever plays Miles Morales. That's what he wants for his next trilogy of movies. But he was on Jimmy Fallon. He did confirm pretty much everything we already knew, that Spider-Man 4 is happening. They're going to start shooting next summer. And Daniel Craig is going to be directing it. That's all we know so far. And finally in news, Tom Holland. After all of this is said, he has been cast alongside Matt Damon in Christopher Nolan's new film, coming out in July of 2026. So where does that put his shooting schedule? So if he's going to be recording that film next year, he must be shooting this movie beginning of the year. So that's what I'm guessing. But going to be starring in that movie, rumored to be a horror movie about vampires in the 1920s. Have you heard that anywhere? I saw that. I wanted to put it in.
I saw that, and I saw a lot of people saying that it should not happen due to the fact that Michael B. Jordan's doing the Ryan Coogler movie, which is literally the same exact description.
Right.
But with Nolan, he's going to give it a certain twist, so it's going to be completely different than anything we've seen. Plus, the Coogler one's more of a horror movie, where this, I'm assuming, would not be. This would be more of an action sci-fi movie.
Drama,
yeah. But whatever Nolan does, I'm here for, so.
Exactly. Whatever he does. He can put shit on paper, I would watch it, so.
Yeah.
That's it for news. That's it for this week. Next week, beginning of the month, we're going to be recording on November 1st, Show and Tell. Talk about the Only Murders in Agatha All Along finales. Episode 6 of The Penguin. Episode 5 of Superman and Lois. You're probably going to catch up on Shrinking. We're going to talk about episode 4, and we're going to want to talk about Brett Goldstein's character. Wild Robot, still on the list to watch. The Joker Folie à Deux comes out on Tuesday. What was the other one that came on Tuesday? We were talking about earlier. Oh, Substance. Yeah, right.
Substance, yeah.
Yep. Basketball movies starting in November. We're going to talk about Hoosiers next week. Gene Hackman, I believe, is the star of that movie. And the election coming up that week, a couple days after we record next week. Going to talk all about Idiocracy, a movie we talked about recently and never seen.
I think it's on Hulu.
I believe I may own that too.
Yeah.
Month of November. Big month of movies. We're going to do a Gladiator watch because Gladiator 2 does come out. We're going to rewatch that. Basketball movies. We're going to talk about He Got Game, Above the Rim. We got another one. We got another couple we got to throw in there too. On the 1st, Robert Zemeckis' new movie starring Tom Hanks called Here comes out. Also on the 1st, John Williams documentary on Disney Plus comes out. Excited for that. On the 15th, I know you're excited for this. Cobra Kai, the new season debuts on Netflix.
Second part
coming
of
out
the new season. Yep.
Coming out in theaters. Red One, The Rock and Chris Evans comes out, where he plays Santa Claus's bodyguard protector. On Max on the 17th, Dune Prophecy, the series debuts. Movie I'm excited for. Gladiator 2 comes out. Plus, Wicked Part 1 comes out same day on the 22nd. And on the 27th, Moana 2, the animated movie, comes out. Also, do you have any interest in doing an actual Deadpool for next year? If we get a couple of our buddies together. I'm not into fantasy football, but I would be interested in this. And there's a lot of our iconic character actors, people that we grew and loved nostalgia-wise, that are passing in real life. And there's a lot of them there that we loved that we could pick up into Deadpool and make some money off of it. Maybe put $100 into a pot and see who wins it at the end of the year. Maybe picking like...
That's pretty fucking morbid.
Hey, we love these characters. We love these actors. We will respect them. However, we may make some money. I'm thinking okay.
I think I'm good on that. Thanks.
You don't want to do it? It'd be great.
No.
I think it would be, but... Alright, well, I just wanted to bring it up anyway. I thought it'd be cool. Thanks, everyone. And we will talk to you at the beginning of the month next week. Peace.
Take care.
We're the Geek Blurb crew, here to enlighten you. Talking all things geeky, from movies to wrestling to our podcast is the place where you wanna be for all the latest news and nostalgia from the 80s and 90s. We review comic book flicks and sci-fi hits, riding the wave of action movies with all the cool bits. From Iron Man to Star Wars, we cover it all. And when it comes to wrestling, we never drop the ball. Geek Blurb, we're the kings of the nerds, rating movies and pineapples, our opinions never blurred. Join us each week for a geeky chat with the latest news and a dose of nostalgia that. So if you're a fan of the comic book craze, or a lover of sci-fi and all its maze, tune in to Geek Blurb, we're here to